I have 23 years in law enforcement. I grew up on the 563,000-acre W.T. Wagner estate near Vernon, Texas, and I have had a career that has mostly involved socially manipulating other people so that I can gather the information that I need to keep the community safe. And that's really the reason why I'm here. I was part of a 3-year-long project with USDA, the FSIS part of USDA, in trying to help food safety inspection folks to understand protective anti-terrorism. That kind of opened my eyes to the agriculture industry as a whole. And so Kay felt it appropriate to invite me to come speak with y'all today. And what I want to do is just come and try to share with y'all some of the information that I have garnered over 15 years of purchasing children on the black market, working prostitutes, drugs, meth labs, fugitives, and all of this other things. Because when I started the USDA project, I realized that there really isn't any difference in the criminal element that might focus themselves against you. And I'm going to say the criminal element, maybe in a room full of civilians, that's not the proper term to use, but the individuals who would target your industry to cause you harm, the tactics that they use and the methods that they use aren't much different than the folks that I've spent 23 years trying to work. And so that's the objective that I'm going to try to start with today, in sharing with y'all how it is that if I were going to try to make you vulnerable, how it is that I would do that. The first thing we have to understand is who would the opposition be. And then, you know, Dr. Temple Grandin does a really good job of pointing out in some of her articles that y'all as an industry do a very good job at communicating with one another. So when I say the competition up here, I'm not talking about, you know, one livestock producer versus another livestock producer. I'm talking about the people in this case that would try to garner information about your business in order to cause themselves some sort of profit or gain. In this case, the theft of bull semen seeming to be an epidemic across, not necessarily across the nation, but just in this one article, there's over $77,000 worth of theft that's occurred just in two thefts. Obviously, we have the terrorist mindset. The simple definition to me of terrorist is their ideology or religion is more important than anything else, including their own lives. Their motivation is to eliminate those who are non-believers or those who jeopardize the fundamentals of their religious beliefs. And then the term that I've heard today mostly is activist, but I'm going to classify them as protectionist, because whether it's the Earth Liberation Front or the Animal Liberation Front, the scary thing is when those two organizations start talking to one another about the tactics that they're using to target people within your organization. Protectionists as a group tend to want to protect the things that they think can't protect themselves. Where the other motivations, religious terrorists, militias, those who are seeking social change, their motives are to dehumanize the target, while protectionists want to humanize what it is that they're focusing on. And that is an important thing to think about when you're trying to understand your enemy. The reason why I put all three of those together is because basically the goals are all still the same. They want to keep you in problem-solving mode. I don't know if anyone in here has ever read about John Boyd. John Boyd never really actually wrote a book. But he is a brilliant military strategist who created what they call the ODA Cycle. And what he determined was that if you want to keep whoever your enemy is, in his case, if you want to defeat them, you have to keep them in orientation phase. And OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. And that's the way all of us problem solve in some definition or another, is we observe what the problem is. We try to orient ourselves with what that problem is, decide what we're going to do, and then follow up, and then we go back to the observation. If I can keep you in orientation phase, then I am winning and you are losing. It's in SWAT we talk about you can't fight and retreat at the same time. You've either got to fight or you've got to retreat, one of the two, but you can't really concentrate on both. They want to create some sort of financial impact on your industry, possibly. They may want to change your practices and or impact your business altogether. They may want to shake some sort of consumer confidence. Kind of goes back to your milk jug question. The reason why injecting, in my opinion, the reason why injecting one package of meat or 1 gallon of milk in a grocery store is it's not going to get national attention. If you're going to focus your efforts and risk going to prison, you have to do it on a much more global or a much more national level, because in the end what they want to gain is media attention. That's the reason why they claim responsibility for the acts it is that they do. They want to gain the media claim responsibility, gain the media attention, and then use that information to try to reduce public support of your industry. Some of the benefits of that you'll notice at the end is typically what you see is when all the media attention comes around, they're not only increasing their membership, they're also in some cases converting those who didn't necessarily support their cause to believe in their cause. They do fundraising as a result of it, and then it also empowers future efforts and efforts of other groups. Fundraising is a very key thing that we're going to talk about a little bit more here as we go along. The thing that you have to realize in any of these terrorist motivations is that location and motivation helps determine who the potential target will be. And financial backing or funding and the education of the people who are trying to act out against you will help determine what, one, their potential capability is, and two, what their range of operations are. Okay, so groups that are not very well funded will typically be focusing on targets that are less than an hour's drive or less than an hour away. Groups are very well funded. The things that they do to prepare for whatever it is they're going to do may extend that range out to as much as 120 miles. You need to hold yourself accountable to animal abuse things that are going on within your own organization. You need to have standards and policies for abuse. You need to have and you need to follow up on those complaints, be them internal or external. You need to have a way of reporting suspicious activity. It's amazing to me the number of organizations that actually have a phone number where you can call, to report something suspicious or abuse, but it's not a collect phone number, or it's not bilingual, because it may be somebody who is Hispanic and really can't speak very good English who is wanting to call and report this. So think about those things, because hopefully your staff understands that if your company or your business or your plant goes out of business, they don't have a job. That's really their investment in this, and right now is a really bad time to not have a job. And so you focus on helping those people to have a way of reporting not only internal complaints or suspicions, but external. Obviously, this takes buy-in from the top down. If administration at the top doesn't support it, then it isn't going to work well when it gets hard. You need to develop an understanding of the enemy or the opposition that you have operating within 60 to 100 miles of you. You need to understand what your company's vulnerabilities are. You need to understand how they'll focus on those vulnerabilities. I mean, if you have a concrete area that's generally always wet and you're pushing cattle across there, you know that that's probably a good place, if it doesn't have slip protection, for cattle to fall and somebody to be videoing that. Educate your staff on scan, the whole water cooler suspicion. When you've got employees going, that guy just doesn't fit in here, he doesn't strike me as the type of guy who would normally be involved in what it is we're doing, they need to know that that's suspicious and somebody should report it to you. Securing your assets, be that facilities or information. Develop policies that mandate animal care and handling procedures. You need to hold employees accountable to the abuses, because if those abuses are occurring within your organization and it's seen as tolerable, then it has a propensity to repeat itself, and you don't want somebody videotaping that or identifying it. Section C of that facility security plan covers that pretty well. If you don't police yourself, someone else will. That's just a matter of it. Off-premise monitoring. I know that AeroSight is one company, and what I've read about it that AeroSight does. I'm impressed with the off-premise monitoring, video monitoring of certain facilities and activities. And be sure you follow up on complaints. Being a guy now that's worked myself up in the administration so high that all I do is write grants mostly and approve operational stuff, I'm telling you, when people call and complain, there's a lot of things that can be addressed by you actually calling them back and talking to them about what it is you found. Even if you think it's not an important issue, There's no credibility to it, no complaints. They're just trying to stir the pot. Still call them back and talk to them, but record it if you can.